think I should give a talk on the real estate sector today, and because I want it to be the importance of this sector and its impact on the wider economy and the livelihood of many cannot be cannot be exaggerated now. Well, let me start with the little. Let's step back a little bit.
May I interrupt?
Yes.
For a moment.
Yes.
Sorry, we've got some car problems in the compound. So 151366, whose car is it? Is that yours?
No.
Is that yours? Yeah, can you please move it? And then there's another car, 4D3445. 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 Yeah, if you could move it, that would be great. Because this compound, yeah, we've got a lot of car problems. Traffic. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry.
Okay. So let's step back a little bit and look at where we are. The state capacity to collect tax in our country has been very low. Partly because the state we had until recently doesn't have political capital or the public support, in short. So the state concentration in tax collection is the easy to enforce part. For example, like custom duties, mine tax, and the excise tax. So things that are easy to enforce and that doesn't have wider public participation. So the state capacity, instead of collecting taxes that are widely spread across the economy, the focus is on the narrowly defined, narrowly enforceable area to make sure that the taxes are collected. So the tax collection has been very low. The blue line is us here. The blue line is us. We're not comparing to the very, very advanced countries here. And we are just looking at Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and they are much better shape than we are. And if you look at the regional average included, I include Thailand and Indonesia in addition to these three, and Malaysia as well. So since the tax collection is so low, what is it has to do with the real estate? And what does it has to do with us in the end? What happened was the state relied on the central bank to the expenditure, state expenditure is something we must spend. You cannot neglect the pay to the policeman. You cannot neglect some of the cleaners in the government offices. They need to eat, they need to be fed. So the government revenue has to be at a certain level. There has to be government expenditure. And they came to central bank to ask for the loans. So what happened is that the composition of central bank balance sheet, if you look at this NCG is called net claim on government and other asset. I segregated into only two parts. Net claim on government and other asset. Other asset is all net foreign assets done into the private sector, everything else. So I'm not talking about central bank policy today, and you'll be disappointed if you are looking for central bank policy. I'm going to talk about what I think of some of the economic problems we are facing here. So what happened? You can see that this blue line is pretty much deficit is funded by central bank fully, pretty much. And very recently we have it came down. And it's now, by last year, it's about 52%. It's still funded by the central bank. So, of the two slides that we have shown, what is the connection there? That's clear. But one thing that is not clear is that what happened in the states where the state revenues are not sufficient to cover the expenditure is not only they borrow from the central bank, but they also restrict and subscribe the interest rate that the owners of capital can expect. So we had prescribed interest rate regime now. It has been for many years, and this is not peculiar to our country. The countries with the budget deficits has to rely on some borrowing, and the state is the largest borrower. So they try to save the debt servicing cost by keeping the interest rate low administratively. So we still have administratively control prescribed interest rate. So what is the consequences of that? Back in 1976, I think, a Stanford economics, Ron McCannon, coined a term called financial repression. It's not human being not being able to shout or demonstrate or march on the streets. That the capital or the savings of the public cannot earn the amount of interest that they should be commanding. So he coined the term, this is not political repression, this is a financial repression. So we had that. The financial repression was there for all years, and the response of the public has been that they will keep money they will keep their saving in a different form. The financial assets have much less appeal compared to the real assets like real estate, gold, automobile, even cell phone until like 5 years ago. So the public moved from financial assets to real assets to maintain their purchasing power. What happened is, as a consequence, is that our banks don't have much money to lend. Public would rather keep it in the form of gold necklace or whatever, and it's easy to liquidate. It's Saturday or Sunday, you can go and liquidate. You can go to pawn shop, you can get a small loan based on that. It's a good collateral. You can also, show off at the any ceremony you go as well. Right. So compared to the financial assets or in the form of current account or the savings account in a bank, they rely much more on the real assets, investing in real estate, investing in anything that can hedge inflation somewhat. So, as you all know, when inflation happened, for the states that has been weak in the political public support and political and deficient in political capital, they would rather go, ask the central bank to borrow. When inflation happens, then who pay most? Those who cannot adjust their salary, who has fixed nominal income, suffer most. And for the states, it doesn't matter, you cannot collect taxes. You can create, central bank to create money, and you can still spend. So inflation is a form of tax. It's equivalent to taxation. So that's the mode of operation we had all along. So public also rely on for that reason, rely on the gold, real estate and others, real estate that can act as an inflation hedge. So our grandmother and our great-grandmother are not stupid. They know very well how to preserve their savings from being taxed. So, I mean, I didn't show it here, but I calculated how much inflation tax we had between China and our country, and in the equal number of years, we tax about, China has about 1/3 of the money creation, about 1/3 is inflation tax, and we have about 2/3 is inflation tax. I don't show this slide here, but the main consequences I want to mention is that the banks in the banking system doesn't have much to lend, and this is the graph of the broad money and as a percent of GDP, divided by GDP. So Thailand, over 300% of the GDP. In the loanable funds, and that's all the funds that the banking system has. And we have only M2, and they may have M2, M3, or whatever. With respect to more highly developed countries, that monetary educates may not be relevant measures. But what I want to show is the amount of funds in the economy that can be, the amount of funds in the banking system as a ratio of GDP to the size of GDP, how much is there? And we don't even have 50% of GDP to lend to the businesses involved and the government. So the banking system is so small. When you prescribe the interest rate, public would rather keep the money in the form of gold necklace or even US dollar or any other hard currency. So that's the relations between the taxation and our banking system is that the interest rate ceiling has very big impact on the growth of the financial sector here. So whatever there are a lot of people who work on financial inclusion, and whatever you do, if your financial assets are not protected against the inflation tax, then people will prefer to have something that is resilient to inflation tax. So that's where we are, and then back in 2007, I think it's August 11th, I think, in the next slide will show up. We make a very fateful, very fateful decision back in 2007. That is, well, in fact, it's a little earlier than that. Before that, we have a rule, a regulation that allows the income, source of fund without identifiable origin. It can be gray, it can be black, it can be anything. To if they give 50% fees, they can buy into real estate. It was before 2007, August 11. On August 11, 2007, we cut it to 8%. So, so when you do, as you well know, when you do a property transaction, you have to pay two kinds of taxes. One is what I could call the transaction fees. Another one is the stamp duty. Stamp duty has been very problematic. It's a slab rate type of tax, and it's been very problematic also in India and Pakistan, where the British system was inherited. But the stamp duty has been relatively stable. And what I want to focus on is this part of the transaction fee. So this one applies only one you cannot show the origin of your money. This can be drug money, plainly speaking. This can be bribes, right? This can be anything that you made, but you don't need to show, as long as you buy into a property. So that only 8%, when you have only 8%, in August 11, 2007 it was slashed to 8%. And say if you are a corporate executive whose income is reported to the Internal Revenue Department, say you pay 15%, but the drug dealer pays 8%, you would rather say your income is, I don't work as an executive, just take my money and I'll buy it into real estate, give me 8% interest, 8% fees. So it's created a big disincentive for the hard-working public vis-a-vis those who got their income from any sources. And it's lasted for 5 years until 2012, August 10. And when it came to August 10, then it moved to 30% for about 2 years. And then it moved to 3% to 30%. Currently it's between 15% to 30% until today. So this is, I call it tax amnesty to those who has income with dubious sources. What happened? What is the consequences of this? It's still there. If you pay 30%, you can still buy real estate and get a clean title. Your money is clean, do whatever you want. So what happened was the reattract. What we saw is, it's one that happened. We have a lot of inflows and outflows into the economy, and a fairly recent study published in 2015 by International Financial Institute in Washington, D.C., by the two authors, Dev Carl and Carl Spencer. They estimated the inflows and outflows into our economy, and they look at the balance of being trade. The method they used was first applied by the Jadish Begwadi back in 1974, and basically they compare the trade data that we report against the trade data of our trading partners. and come up with the CIF value to Yangon by adding 10% to the trade data of the FOB trade data of our trading partners. And they're checking as the balance of payment statistics from IMF, and they come up with these numbers. So from 2005 to 2014, or 2030, the study ended in 2030. We have net inflows of sizable net inflows into the country, and in some years it's 31% of GDP, 21% of GDP, 12% of GDPs. Why these years are so big? The Chinese economic movement buying a lot of inputs from us, teak, jade, gemstone, you name it. So I calculated for 2014, I calculated for just one item, jade. Chinese statistics say we imported 12 millions or so. We say we imported how many millions? So, when you back it out, I got something like 9.6 billion in one export commodity alone, jade. If you look at UN contract data, these are all publicly available sources. If you look at UN contract data and our export statistic, you can back up this number easily. So what happened was where did this money go? You can see, it's easily, you can see that they go into real estate sector. Well, they can go to other areas as well, but real estate, you pay something and then you get, one is 8%, and you get all clean title, pretty good deal, right? And I think this is one of the major mistakes we made back in 2007. Why do we want to channel this much money? Not this much money, but why do we want to channel all the capital flows into this particular one sector? What is special about that? And that is also fueled by the private sector credit growth. And as you can see that this number, this number, this number, this number, this number, also this number are very low. Right? If you have too much credit expansion, that is not very good over the long term. But it's easy to follow when you have expanding real estate, the credit expansion follows. So, bank lending also fuel the real estate investment, and real estate prices go up as well. So the consequences. This is from the Colliers International. You can still possibly find it online. It's their publication for the second half of 2014 that Yangon, if you look at Yangon, it's a 1 square feet per year, costs $93 to rent. And you may well remember that back in 2014, 15, and early 2016, so the office rent were like $6, $7 per square feet in downtown Yangon. So compare that to Kuala Lumpur, where there's electricity, where there's a police on the street, right? Where there's hospital to go to if you get hit. $22 per square feet. What is special about Yangon? Right? So we are only second to Hong Kong here. So we got excited, So, but Korea only just make a call back in 2014 that their focus of vacancy rate is 12.3% at the time, highest among all these cities that they surveyed. And it really played out. By 2015, when Myanmar Plaza opened, what happened? The rental costs go down to $3 per square feet. I don't know if you may still ask for Myanmar Plaza still may have some office space left. I don't know. So what happened when you have this high real estate, this kind of rental income? To study the urban real estate cycle, you saw it in many places. Back in one example I want to refer to was late 1980s in Tokyo. Office rent was so high. And the Japanese city has some of the dwellings that old couple, some of the veterans from the Second World War or whatever, lives. They don't want to sell their land to the property developers. They refuse to sell, and the property developer hire Yakuza to force them to sell. Old couple got scared. They sold out and left. And they consolidated the 9 to 10 property and built big office building, shiny, good looking, many stories high. So we go that way. We don't do Yakuza, but we can help with the other. So a lot of construction activities started in Yangon. The problem can be that you don't have estimates of the demand when you complete. And everybody tends to complete at the same time. Right? So that's another story. So what I would like to focus is that I did some study based on the over 1,000 or so property data, assessment data I can get hold of. It's not central bank data, I'll tell you. It's from a private assessor's office, been well established, local. And I back out what is the return to the real estate property. And for the 10-year period, starting January 2005, and I got these numbers. So when you look at investment in gold, you will only get 10%, 11%, say, real estate is this much, and our inflation rate is, a lot of disagreement how much inflation is there in our country, So I must say the one thing, and the World Bank has a different thing, and our CSU has another thing, but it's around there, and it's pretty good inflation hedge that you can see here, that having a real estate. So, those who bought into real estate are not blind men. They know very well. So what happened as a consequence in our country? When you have property, this is another thing that I myself calculated. This is my own data. And from 2005 to 2014, this is the price to income ratio. Say income goes up by 2 times. If the price go up by 2 times as well, they will stay at 100 here. They will not move. If the prices go up if the incomes go up but the prices stay the same, then it will go down. So what we see is back in, if we give from the, start from the same place, we compare to Indonesia, it's go to 50% reduction, but we have over 200% here. So meaning that our prices went up 2 times more than the income in that period. So, what are the consequences of that? When you have real estate that appreciated that much, how much, if you are to, I came back to Yangon in 2014, but I was here a while back before that as well. I came back permanently in 2014, and then I saw in Daugla, I was making a duplicate for my car keys, and I saw an Indian fake shop that deals in the scrubs, metal scrubs, and the used books, and this kind of, we call it, you know what it's called, water places. And they recycle a lot of used bottles, things like that. And I saw a lot of soda cans and beer cans pressed into a block cube. And I asked them, what are you going to do with this? He said, I'm going to sell it. Okay. Where are you going to sell it? Where do you think they sell it? The answer I got was, we're sending it to Singapore. To recycle your beer can and soda can, you send it to Singapore, where there's abundance of land. You've got to think of where we are. So, I asked, why don't you have it here? Why don't you have a recycling plant here? Where's the electricity? Where's the land? How much is the land? So we are pricing ourselves up. We are pricing ourselves out of the competition. And we cannot attract the foreign investment if you keep doing that. So, to me, when you have a project, a business project, you have to think of how much land, labor, and capital are all necessary ingredients to start a business. But when you have to offer a lot to the landowners, how much is left for the labor and capital? So, we are pricing ourselves out of the range of the investor. And it's also, the per capita income is the real economic figure. And the property values are decided in the property market. And it's diverged from the fundamentals, economic fundamentals. Our real estate values has nothing to do with the reality here. And can it be sustained? And this is another data that I calculated myself with the help of 4-person team, and we work on this like 2 months. And this is the property value versus the rental income. What you are seeing is the price to rent ratio, price divided by rent. So which is you can say this is the inverse of the yield to the property investment. So if you put the rental income, let's say you are earning 200,000 checks from your 4 million investment, you divide 200,000 times 12 per year and divide it by 4 million checks. So you get the yield. It's like the yield is expected to be equalized across the economy, because if the return to the all investments are the same. But this is the inverse of this. So this shows that how many years it takes to pay down a property if you only rely on the rental income to pay down this. So what we saw here is the, I can only get data for these years, this country for this year, but this is the only time our country has a very long series, right? If you do economic research and analysis, you know that how difficult data problem here. But you know, we work our heart out to get to back out these data. So what we see is the our average is around 40. Internationally, it's about 22 to 28 or somewhere like that. If you are above that range, then you consider it's overpriced. If you're below that, it's underpriced compared to the amount of income, the rental income that you can expect from this property, ignoring all the taxes. So we have only, that's also, this is another thing is, we can only get data from Yangon outer city areas, because inner city areas are their property regions, and they are such that, I should not say property because we don't even have a property here, but in terms of property rights in the terms of Western sense, we only have the user rights, and the state is the ultimate owner of the real estate. So in this urban area, I mean central Yangon area, the way nobody owns, when you own an apartment, it's not same as you own something with the land attached to it outside of Yangon. This is, they call it, in the deep, the decay of central Yangon stems from the fact that these owners of these apartments doesn't have rights if something collapses there, and they cannot, they can resell it, but they have to still pay the nominal rent to the original owners. They call it a biao. So I don't use that number, and so I have to rely on the outer city area versus the central city area in the other country. We have much higher, only, this is India, and India's, I don't understand. There's a reason that India real estate prices go up since 2011 sharp. I don't understand. But it's Yangon, Yangon average is on par with the Singapore, and much far above the Cambodia here, Philippines, this is Indonesia. So our prices are not justified by the amount of income it can generate, and how long can it go on with this? So what the main point I want to make today is that this is a drag on our economy. This is something we must deal with somehow. And Gopi, who's sitting here, I know he was asked 30% extra for his school. He rented a place, right? He moved out, right? So is Mainland Modi. So is many automotive garage who are doing well. So is my younger brother as well. When a business is doing well, the landlord smell the money, start to raise the rental fees, and then you get forced out over time. So a lot of, the payment to the landlord is so high that not much is left for the labor and capital. So back in 60th century England, I think, I may be wrong by 100 years, when the Industrial Revolution happens, let's say two competing strand, competing forces in the economy. One is the landlords. One group were the landlords. Another group was the industrialists who want to have the cheap labor. And industrialists led by David Ricardo called for importation of corn from the European continent so that they can pay lower wages to the workers. But the other group led by landlords, very well led by the who's the population doctrine guy? Robert Melville's. Is known for population doctrine, that but at the time he was the landlord. He's a champion of the cause of landlord. He asked for the ban on the corn from being imported from European continent. Because if the corn prices go up, so will the land prices. If England could not solve that well, if they could not have solved well, the industrialization may change the story. That happened, that took root. Back in Japan, I may be still also off by, I'm just recalling out of my memory. After Commando Perry went there and shot some of the palm tree down by his cannons, I think it's 80, 70, somewhere around that, and Japanese Tokugawa shogun decided to, and the Japanese decided to change their feudal system. And the Japanese feudal lords, the landlords, the daimyo and others were asked to relinquish their land. They got compensation from the state, but they had to relinquish the land, and they could not buy back the land with that money. So these Japanese lords got a lot of compensation from the central government, but didn't know what to do with that money, went into the industrialization, and Mitsubishi and other came from, these lords at the time. The house of Mitsubishi became the Mitsubishi company today. So what we are seeing is we are at the juncture. What we will do about this landlordism and owner real estate. The one thing that I would personally would prefer is this widespread and equitable property tax regime. But as I alluded to earlier, that we don't have fully property, but it doesn't much matter. Vietnamese doesn't have the property rights. Property, land still belongs to the state, but as long as the land lease contract were renewed, when the 30 years time is out, 60 years time is out, it doesn't make much difference over a long time. So, unless one of the books that I really like, and I still occasionally go back to, is written by the French, my name I forgot. The book is Democracy in America. It's by what's that? It'll come, it's okay. So he's sent by the French government, French king to study the American Revolution in 1700 and 1776, and he wrote this book on the attempt to France. And there's a French Revolution in 1789, and guillotine and all these things happened. So I don't remember his name. Anyway, that is about the property tax regime. Part of that is about the property tax, how it works in small town America, in New England specifically. And I was chance to spend time in New England, along with some of you here. And I like to go to the town hall meetings there, where and that French guy, I could not recall his name. You can Google it quickly. Tocqueville, yeah, Tocqueville. So Tocqueville, he observed in New England, the doctors, the carpenters, laborers, when it's the time for the town hall meeting, they drop their trade and they went into the meeting and discuss the town affairs. And one of the main things that they discuss is how much is the property tax that we are collecting and how much we are spending in our township. And until today, the last time I was there was back in 2013, I think. This still, you can get the town report like a month or so ahead, and if the school headmaster needs a new car or a fire engine needs to be replaced, everything's on the budget, town budget. If the highway maintenance, everything, the payment to the pensioner that works for the town. So they are decided on by the public there right away, and their expenditure has direct consequences of how much tax they will be levying on the property they have. They know their property base, so how much is the tax they have to pay, they can figure out fairly and roughly in the same, in one sitting in the meeting. So we would like to have, if possible, there are some competing idea about how the property tax should be introduced here. But there's some policy consensus that there has to be a property tax. And let me give you one example, a straight example to John Mucho. Dr. John Mucho, right? His father sold the land, sold a piece of land back in 3 years ago, for about $500,000, not a small amount. And how much he paid? Back in 1991 or so, maybe 20 or something like that, right?
Or less.
Yeah, less. Yeah. And what's the cost of carrying? All these years that somebody carry keep the real estate. A lot of industrial zones are empty. Forget about industrial zones. There's not an engine running. And they just wall up their little compound and then wait for the higher and higher offer. And they don't pay any tax in the intervening year. And when they pay tax, they negotiate, whatever they do, they try to reduce the tax bill due. So the cost of carry is so small that that property sits in the hand of those who cannot put to use. Assume $500,000 property is taxed 1% only, but has to be paid annually. The tax has to be annually. How much it will work out to be? Right? It's going to be about 55 million jets a year. So if the owner of the property could not generate 5 million, they cannot create a business, it cannot build a business on that land that generate at least 5 million, or it has to be much more higher, then they will have to sell this property simply. And the property will go to those who can generate that income. And you won't see a lot of vacant land, a lot of villas are vacant around here. And so, to me personally, my preference is townships to collect their property tax give them full jurisdiction over this, and central government should not be claiming a part of that. That way, the transfer that the union government is making to the state and regions will not be that necessary, or maybe can be a lot less. So, this, and with the job creation, if the property go to the person with the profitable project, that will create jobs, and that will create a lot more income and the revenue stream, and a lot other multiplier effect any additional income will entail. So this is something that we must, to me personally, this is something we must find a way to solve this thing. Or we'll miss the opportunity, and we'll be pricing ourselves out of the range of the potential investor in our country. Now, that's all I want to say, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Bo Bo Nge. Now I would like to welcome questions from the audience. We have 20 minutes for question and answer session.
Who's going to?
I have a question from the beginning of your presentation. You were talking about the relationship between interest rates and savings, and how, because the government's borrowing so much money, the interest rates are really low, so people aren't investing money into their savings accounts, and instead are looking elsewhere at like gold and housing. But I was wondering if you've done any analysis to look into other factors for why people might not be putting their money in their savings accounts, like maybe like a lack of trust in the banking system, or lack of knowledge or culture around a banking system.
There can be other factors as well. We don't have that much. Our branch network, banking branch network is still small comparatively, but and a lot of Chinese, counter example to this is a lot of Chinese put a lot of money into their state-owned banks, and their interest rates is also kept, right? So I think there can be other factors as well here, and we cannot blame this alone. But when you have, it is okay if you cut the interest rate, but that policy the cut policy is not corporate to blame. But if it is below the running inflation rate, that's a problem. Right? So there are years that we have 50% inflation on average. It's running around, as you see, fairly high, and then the recent, starting like 2010 or so, the inflation is single digit or low double digit. So, but if you go back to 1990s, there are years that have up and down, and so average on those years are about 25%. So if you put money into the bank, then you are really not helping yourself that much. That's how public feels. So the real interest rate is something different. So I think in general, public can figure out how much their purchasing power eroded over time. So I think this is one of the major reasons. There are other reasons as well. And familiarity with the banks. Some of the public maybe in the rural area, they may be scared to go into the bank. They look so imposing. That might be one thing. But there are other ways. The reason I'm pointing out this is, even if we try a lot of other channels like agent banking or all other things, if we spread out, public can figure out their purchasing power over time. That and the inflow to keep them, to encourage them to keep their savings in the nominal accounts with the nominal value is the challenge. Whenever there's a high inflation, that's what I'm after.
Thank you, Saya, for your presentation. And as you mentioned, the property prices in Myanmar, in Yangon especially, was overpriced. And then we know that in this country, lending is only possible if it's against collateral, such as property or land. And during the past 1 year or so, property prices have gone down 20 to 30%. So how is this going to present a challenge to the banking system here? And how could the central bank do to help and prevent potential crisis?
We are aware of the situation. It's not very new. And but our instruction to the bank is that they should have collateral well in excess of their outstanding loan amount. So we are looking into that, and in majority of the cases, and we found that the collateral can well cover the outstanding loan. But I don't rule out relatively smaller number of cases that some of the individual banks might have not followed the guidelines and put it out. So in addition to that, we have many other proposals from the international group and also World Bank and others to allow the unsecure level. Unsecure means the secure with the working capital, secure with their part of their working capital, either be the inventory or be the rubber trees that are producing that are in the production age, things like that. So, or the machinery that they are using in the operation. So, but we need some of the legal structure there to, for example, we need the collateral registration company that if I have committed my machine to one lender, the lender can go to that registrar and put it up. And if he goes to another lender, then that lender can check whether he has pledged his machine as a collateral, or his land, or his part of his working capital as a collateral. So that is voluntary, and every lender who has allowed that kind of pledge by the lending against the collateral has an incentive to go and post what they had lent to bid and what security they have, because they don't want to have another lender lending against the same security that put up. So we are looking at that need to create a new law, or possibly we can figure out in the existing framework. Some of the legal advice is that in a common law country it's different, so we may be able to do it sooner or later, but it's not going to happen in this year. But over time, we will. I think it's really important that and secure the secure by the other collateral other than land need to be diversified, and that is important to have more soundness in the system.
Just one very quick follow-up question. You mentioned that most banks are able to recover the collaterals, but there are some banks that cannot. How high is the percentage if there's such data available for central bank, like the bad loans?
I don't see some banks. I will see some. There can be accounts, one of here and there. That can be a reduction in real estate value, but what we see is only something like 30% reduction. So they're required to cover. They're required to cover the shortfall. The amount of collateral, the amount of additional provision to be set aside is figuring how they figure out is how much the real estate value worth now, and what is the outstanding loan amount. That amount need to be provisioned. So the provision is not full 100% of the loan. So that is being carried out now and by the banks. So I expect this to continue in coming throughout the year.
My name is Matthew from the Age Foundation. Could you expand a little bit on your point that you would encourage some kind of a property tax at the township level? And who would own that? Which agency would push it? And would it be different than the municipal office's building fee, or would it be a new one, or would it be a reform? How do you envision it?
To me, municipalities, how they came about, what did they do in the townships is they provide services. Right? I would rather reorganize municipalities as private governments that collect the garbage, operate an incinerator, produce electricity, whatever they do. And the water service they provide, I would rather have the utilities company handle that. So these are the municipalities are service provider, and they should not be the one who is overseeing this tax, any property tax at the local level. So, to me, this is different from I think it's different from the land revenue taxation that British put in place. And even though it is called property tax, in some discussion I saw, but it's not property in the Western sense as well. So this should be a new type of tax. I mean, that's not covered in Table 1 and Table 2 of the 2008 Constitution. And we want this to be carved out as a new entity elected by the public in the township to handle this. And this new entity can pay the municipality or whoever the service provider to their fees, be the lighting fee for the streets, or be the garbage collection, be the water water delivery, whatever it is, or maintenance of some of the infrastructure with the public with the public use. So it should not be and the public perception might be that we would like to have them a fresh start, if possible, and so I think it's most appropriate to have a new entity that is rightly led by the public in the town to handle this kind of tax, because you need to have a lot transparency here and a lot equitable application, and where the taxes are spent need to be very clearly and very transparently communicated to the public that it should be handled by the entity that public directly has control. That's my position. A lot of people may have different opinion.
A quick question. So, in the early part of the presentation, you talked about financial oppression, where the savers do not have the opportunity to earn what is rightful or fair, right? I think on the other side of the coin is if they are to be given the fair rate of return on the savings, I think the financial intermediaries such as the banks should be in the position to deploy those deposits in a way that they can earn a rate that is commensurate with how they pay out to the savers, right? I think in this current environment with cap interest rate for both for lending and as well as the banks not being able to price risk accordingly, I think that both sides cannot be accomplished, right? I know the central bank is, I think with this new regime, I think the central bank is quite supportive of allowing banks eventually to be able to lend at a risk-based rate for certain assets and certain tenures. Would you like to elaborate when the timing or the sequencing of those reforms, right, to really increase the financial inclusion and really lower the financial suppression, so to speak?
Well, you're not going to hear about central bank policy here. I told you. So, but my personal thought, that's only my personal thought. It's not only in the central bank. It also has to do with Ministry of Finance, how much tax they can collect. Right? So, we are working on developing some of the retail electronic payment system so that you can, a lot of, when you go to the restaurant, they may post it in the receipt, they may post a little bit of stamp. The stamp is out of circulation, you cannot buy them. Sorry, you got to take this. There's a lot of things that happen. So we would like to be able to collect it electronically. And Central Bank is helping the Ministry, Internal Revenue Departments to be able to now start with our real-time gross settlement system. We're using that we're helping the government to be able to collect quicker through our payment system. But we have a lot more to go in terms of retail payment development, and we can the new payment system second phase is being implemented and it will be completed in 2020. But I'm trying to get it a little sooner than that, and so that we can get all the retail payment system up and running. And it will be a lot easier to collect taxes and a lot harder to effect the tax when you have to pay through that. Like for example, Korea has a regulation that if his payment is over $100, about that, then you have to pay with electronically, you cannot pay with cash. So that can be combination of all this. So I'm not saying anything, but these are brainstorm, look on, and it's, that takes a while. And going back to the interest rate, my thoughts is that, look at Chile in the 1980s. They tried very quickly to dismantle this system under the guidance of Chicago School, and they got into trouble, right? And so moving from we need a lot other ancillary mechanisms to be in place before we let interest rate float. So Chinese still have prescribed interest rate for deposits, but not for the lending rate. So how long does it take to Chinese? When did they started embarking on their reforms? Right? And if you look at that, it's not a it's a process that needs to be thoroughly thought out, and a lot of other contingencies need to be planned before letting anything float or anything like that. But I think my colleagues communicated to the private sector that there will be more flexibility in the near future about the interest rate. So, yeah, your point is taken, but from the system stability point, we got to think of many other factors as well. We need to have the good thing about the amazing thing about the thing I like about Chinese reform is that when they let something go, it doesn't change. When they let the lending rate go, it doesn't change. The policy has no impact because they already relax in the marketplace. That you know, they have already the market is well priced in the potential policy action. That when real policy happens, there's not much change in the system. So they do a lot of piloting in that reform, and the state-owned system reform is very exemplary. ICBC is the largest bank today in the world. By deposit. So I think careful approach is important in this regard.
We will receive one last question.
Anyway, Kevin Murphy from Johns Hopkins Partners. You gave a great reminder of the distortions that were caused when all that money came in the period, and it was a gateway for black money to enter the economy legitimately. The question to you is, when you try to steer this economy, how much is a problem or an issue or something to manage? There is still so much cash, so this is such a cash economy. Can you see it coming into the system legitimately, and what factors, how do you think about trying to encourage less black and more white in the economy without future distortion? Where does it go?
Well, and that's a good question, and it's a very broad question. So I think a lot of money, we cannot change the past, and we got to walk with the past. And this is a house that has been built and designed, and we as a country has to live on this house, and a lot restricted, a lot difficulty a lot more difficulty in the moving around in the system. So it has to be, I think it has to come from the transparency initiative, especially in the extractive industry. A lot of money comes from the extractive industry here, and timber, jade, a lot of other rights that we bestow in the past, and that kind of vetting procedure has to be transparent, and still there are a lot of areas that we haven't uncovered Like for example, the sales of the natural resources, especially, and where it comes from, and how, well, which pocket flows into which pocket, and where it's sitting. We have a sizable amount of capital sitting abroad as well, and the licensing and contracting process need to be a lot more transparent, and also hold some of the officers accountable who make decisions. So it's whatever happened in the past is something we can change, but going forward, this should be much more public oriented, and the role of media is also very important in this as well. So what we can try is to have the more less cash in the economy by trying to make payment system and the taxation system more transparent and efficient. And these are broad issues. This question is broad. These are the broad issues that not only the Ministry of Finance and Central Bank, but also the private sector has to be involved here. So it's a long road. I would say this is not going to happen overnight, and it'll be. But we need a persistence of the public to keep pushing whoever is in power to hold them accountable and demand the answer and stay vigilant, not to get wrong. These are the all important things, I think.
We have another car parking problem. It's 6J2511. Whose car is it? 6J2511.
Car is it?
Maybe it's not from us.
Maybe it's not from us.
Or if you want one more.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very, very last question. Felix asks my name. It has been really inspiring to hear actually an industrialist speaking here in this country that needs probably many more of them. The issue that you've raised mostly is that people store value, that they don't utilize it for actual production. You talk about the industry zones that are empty. You talk about the gold being stored. You talk about the skyrocketing real estate prices, and at least unnaturally high real estate prices. How can in this situation, how can this country attract rather also foreign technology? I believe in entrepreneurial spirit of the various people, but I don't believe in advanced technology coming from this country in the next generation. How can foreign technology be introduced and fill these industry zones? And what role in that sense, from your perspective, what role does foreign investment have in this economy that requires foreign technology?
Well, I'm not very clear about your question. Can you repeat in one sentence what's your question?
Yeah. So you talk about non-used capital, non-used wealth in the economy, which might be in the gold bars of the grandmas, which might be in land being used for speculation. How can this be turned into actual value creation, into actual production in the country based on foreign technology and based on best practice that the country can learn from anywhere around? In that sense, what role does foreign investment have in this what you described?
very long sentence. Thank you. You know, I don't have the answer to all your questions. You know, I only have the limited view that I have. It's hard to see the panacea in this, but it has to come from a combination of sources. And there are things that we should not do. For example, I'm not in favor of having places like stock exchange, stock exchange, and I was involved deeply in that. You know, I set up the payment system there, and one, you don't have the auditing and accounting profession thriving here. How can you measure the value of the equity? The stock exchanges are the exchange of the claims on the equity of the funds, and without knowing how much debt is there, without knowing whether your financial statements are reliable, then who will be, the equity is the last claimant if something goes belly up. So this is the kind of thing that, to me personally, it can have, people have their own opinion, but to me, this is kind of waste of our resources, and every hour I spent when I was setting up the payment system, I feel, this is a big waste to me. And so there are things that we need to think of. We should not be too fancy about. It's like we are like sometimes I blame it as something like we are like a genteel lady, who is looking up to their neighbors, and the neighbor has the gold rings and necklaces. You have something else, and you try to get fakes on you yourself. And when you have your neighboring country having stock exchange, you have to have one. So we need to prioritize what we need here. And there's a lot of, I think stock exchange is the one good example that we wasted our intellectual and all our time, valuable time. There will be meaningful trade in there. And I don't know what is the recipe to do that, but there are things that we should not do. Things like that. And one important thing we see at this point is the infrastructure development. I mean the postal system, the railways, the highways, electricity generation, and the basic legal rights that investors should have need to be perfected. Company law being discussed. So these are things that that we need to work on. And if, in the end, if there's no road and the electricity, as there's no security in your investment, you won't have much. You cannot fancy about having big things in your lifetime. So I think it's the more we should look into what are the basic things that we get wrong, and fixing one thing can generate a lot of money out of it. It's like, Mao Zedong said back in, not Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping said back in, before he died, he was asked, why, what do you think, what were you thinking when you allowed the farmers to have their own plots of land to work on? There were communes before that. And he said, my colleagues and I have no idea at the time. We don't know that what we saw was the emergence of small and medium enterprises in the rural area that we never thought would happen. They only allow the farmers to grow in their small plots of land and sell this extra produce in the market above what they are required to provide to the state. And this small right decision bring forth a lot better secondary consequences and impact that generate a lot more jobs in the rural area. So, it's important to fix to me, it's important to fix the fundamentals. The security of land is also many farmers still are they're in the limbo about their land rights. That, one, cities' land is so valuable, the land around cities get somehow also, people try to get hold of this land in a fair or unfair way or whatever equitable way. It happened in the past. And there's a lot of lawsuits and a lot of complaints by the farmers. And one, you don't have the basic security like investment in your land, and you're not sure that the land will be yours in the next year, then how it can happen. I think it's not, the basic thing is to figure out what we did wrong and correct them. And also, Deng Xiaoping said, it's like groping, crossing the river by groping the rocks. They don't know what happened. They just do what is right and what is favorable, what is good for the public. And I think these are the basic things. It's not that, to me in the end, it's not that complicated. The important thing is to listen to the public and to really understand the underlying causes and solve it with public interest, full public interest in your mind. That's the important thing. And that's also applied to the central banking as well.
Thank you very much, Bo Bo Nge and the audience for the questions. I would like to invite Dr. John Moulton to give the token of appreciation to Bo Bo Nge.
Okay, thank you.
John.